So I'm going to pick up right here. We're going to double click on this blueprint hello that you made in the previous exercise. And we're going to open the blueprint editor. In the event graph, we're going to keep the begin play event, and we're going to remove the print string action. So let's do steps 1, 2, and 3 in order. First, I'm going to double click to open this up. Next, I'm going to keep the event begin play. And third, I'm going to remove this print string function by hitting delete. In the Components panel, click the Add Component button and search for text and choose the text render component. So once we've chosen it, so step number 4 is really 3 smaller steps, which in later labs I would just explain as one step. So we're going to add a component. So over here, we're going to add a component. We're going to look for the word text, and we're going to find text render, which is going to be a component. There's the text render. You can leave it with the default name of text render, it's fine. With it selected, in the details panel, set the Z value to a location of 100 and change the text render color to something, green color or your favorite color. So details panel, Z 100, green. So with this highlighted, the component in the blueprint, so I've got it highlighted here in the details panel, the Z value for location is the third one. So I want to put this at 100, which moves it above the ground by a value of 100 units. The player is 180 units tall. And then it wants me to consider changing the color of the text. So the color of the text is not the default color. So the text color, if you're not sure where the color is, you can click up here and type in color to find the color. And there's your text render color. And then you can double click on this swatch to change the color to whatever you want. Once I click on OK, that will take the color change. I've got it Z set to 100. Now notice that I did not change the value here. It still just says text. This is the original text. I'm not going to change it from the original text. That would be a cheat because that's not part of the instructions. In the My Blueprint panel, in the variables category, click on the plus button to add a new variable. So we're going to use another part of the My Blueprint panel where there's variables, and we're going to click on plus. In the blueprint where it says My Blueprint, I'm going to click on the Add New button, and we're going to do a variable. Variable's highlighted right here. When you create a variable, it wants to know what the data type is and the name is. So right here is the name, and the details that are also exposed are in the right here. So the name is newvar_0, and here's the details. And in the details panel, we're going to change the name to message. Now, if you want to make sure you're spelling it exactly right, you can highlight and do a copy from the Google Doc here. And variable type to text. So we're going to name it message. It's going to be text. The variable is called message, so I need to rename it. Call this by Control V to paste it there, message. And for the type, I'm going to make it a text. There is text. You'll notice it turned pink and it's got the word message. Compile the blueprint. So sometimes when you add a component, if you haven't compiled it yet, it doesn't let you do certain things. So even though we haven't really changed the event graph yet, we're still going to compile it. You'll notice there's a question mark here. And when we click on the word compile, if it compiles properly, we get a green checkbox because everything checks out. We're going to, under the default value category, we're going to change it to hello from student using your name. So I'm going to change the variable's default value, which is this one here. And I'm looking for the default value. It's right there. And I'm going to paste with the Control V, hello from student, or from whatever your name is. And once that change has been made, now in the event graph, we're going to locate the text render component in the blueprint. Click and hold, and then drag out the text render component onto the event graph and drop it near the event begin play event. I'm going to look for the component called text render. I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to drag it out and put it near the begin play. It's a value we're going to put in here. So we're going to grab the variable and use the get option. So in here, I'm going to go down and grab the variable called message. I'm going to click and drag it out, and I'm going to use the option get message. There it is. So I've got a reference to the text render, and I've got a reference to the message. From the text render component, drag a wire and release the mouse button. This will open the context menu, search for text, and get set text. From the text render component, I'm going to drag off, and I'm going to use the context menu to look for set text. And I'm looking for the word set text in here. And connect the message variable to the set text actions value pin, see figure 2. Let's scroll down to figure number 2. Value. We need to wire in this to value. We've got the white line, we've got the target, now we need the value. So I'm looking for set text render here, which has got a blue thing on it. Not the font. Set text. There we go. The blue F, and it's got the value. So the execution pin needs to be set. The value needs to be set. There we go. Thank you for help, person talking in my ear here. Let's go back to our instructions. And actually, to make sure this works, I'm not sure the instructions, let's make sure they actually show that. Compile the blueprint. We already have one in the content browser. Press play, and we should be able to see that it shows as hello from student. So let's take a look and see how that works. Compile our change. Should already have one of these in the level. So if I click on play, it's facing backwards, but there it says hello from Mr. Judge. I'm going to hit escape on that and move this object so that it's more in front of the player. Now there's a couple things I'd like you to do to clean this up a little bit so it looks a little nicer. One is this little spinning question mark thing doesn't need to be there. You can delete it. And if we haven't highlighted it before, make sure you update the part that says third person so that it's got your student name. And that's a pretty quick little blueprint that basically is going to have your name show up. If you want to invert this rotationally so that it's easier to read, this is good evidence because it says the word text until I play it. And then it actually changes based on the blueprint being in the level. Now, unlike the one that has a duration, this text element will stay there as long as it does. And now I'm going to show you a couple of things you could do to kind of play with this. This would be optional enrichment. Continuing our set text, we could actually add a delay mode. And if you set a delay, you could set it to a duration of, let's say, 3 seconds. That. I did not mean to say 32. I just meant to put in a value of 3 there. There we go. After the delay, I can set up another message that shows up and change that value here as well. So let's set up another variable. All we're doing is repeating the same process. We're going to add another variable. We're going to call this message 2. We're going to get into message 2 and change the color for it as well. Or if we wanted to, we could actually set the text value under the default value. Oh, it says please compile the blueprint, which is something I mentioned when I was doing this. Let's compile the blueprint. There's our message 2. So now it's going to say, so what is new? Question mark. And all I'm doing this for is to show you that I can repeat the same process again and change it after a set delay. It's totally optional. So to get to that set text again, I can grab a reference to the message here. I can grab a reference to the text render. And then when I drag off the execution pin, I can look for set text render. And when I go to set text render, I can set the value. I'm going to pause the video for a minute, folks. Still doing a recording here. Let's see what we can do. I actually want to make sure I get this text render, set text render that we talked about before. It's good for me to repeat this process actually. So I'm going to type in set render, set text. Notice it's blue. It's got my target. I'm going to wire in message 2 to this here. I'm going to take my execution path. I'm going to connect that there. I'm going to compile this, and then it's already in the world. So this time when I run it, notice to start with it says text. When I click on play, it says hello from Mr. Judge. I'm not touching anything. I'm just waiting for this to get to the next point. I forget how long I kept it up for, but after a certain up, so it is. So what is new? So it changed dynamically. All right.